All right, so we need to talk about AI and code. It's everywhere, right? Open source projects are just getting flooded with contributions. But is that a good thing? How do we even begin to manage it? Well, today, we're going to look at a really fresh take from a developer named Rainer Garhartz. He basically flips the whole script on how we should be thinking about code quality.
And this really is the big question, isn't it? It's what everyone's wrestling with. I mean, on one hand, AI could speed up development like crazy. But on the other, it can bring in this whole new set of problems. And that's sparking some serious debate. Some projects are even going so far as to ban AI contributions completely.
And there's a name for this problem, AI slop. It's exactly what it sounds like. That low quality, kind of messy, sometimes just plain wrong code that gets submitted. You know, the stuff that looks like an AI just spat it out without any real engineering thought or proper review. It might look like code, sure, but really it just gums up the works, clogs the review pipeline, and ultimately it can drag down the quality of the whole project.
So when you're faced with this AI slop dilemma, what's the first instinct? For a lot of project maintainers, it's to just build a wall. The immediate thought is, okay, how can we sniff out the AI-generated pull requests so we can just reject them on site? But, and this is the important part, it turns out that might be completely the wrong fight to be picking.
And this is really the core of Gerhardt's argument. He says that trying to play detective, trying to figure out if a piece of code came from a human or an AI, is just a total dead end. And why is that? Well, think about it. Humans can write terrible code. And an AI, if you use it right, can help you write some absolutely brilliant code. So at the end of the day, where it came from, it just doesn't matter.
Which brings us to the big idea here, a completely new way of looking at it. The idea is to shift our focus away from the who or the what that wrote the code and put it squarely on the only thing that should ever matter, the quality of the code itself.
Yeah, this slide really spells out that mindset shift. The old way, it's like a game of whodunit. You're always trying to figure out the code's origin story. But the new way, it's just a straight-up engineering assessment. Does this pull request meet our standards? Yep or no? Does it follow the rules we've laid out for the project? It's a simple shift, but it's huge. We're moving from worrying about the origin to focusing on the outcome. Okay, so you might be thinking, how do you measure quality objectively? That's the key question, right? Well, Gerhardt's makes a fantastic point here. He says that just following the project's policies is an incredibly powerful sign of quality. We're talking about the simple stuff, naming conventions, the way you write documentation, even cleanup rules. A contributor, and it doesn't matter if they're human or AI-assisted, if they take the time to actually get that stuff right, it's a huge signal that the code itself is probably pretty solid.
But of course, you can't check all this by hand for every single PR. That would be a nightmare. It just doesn't scale. So what's the next logical step? You guessed it, automation. This is what Gerhardt's did. He built these automated policy checks right into his CI pipeline. He created a system that basically acts as a quality gatekeeper automatically. And his strategy here had two parts, which is pretty clever. First, he used what we call deterministic checks. You know, the classic stuff, linters, style checkers. They're rigid, totally inflexible, but for the rules they're checking, they are 100% right every time. But then he added a second layer, AI-based checks. These are a little more fuzzy. They're not about strict rules, but they act as a fantastic rater for the more subtle, nuanced parts of code quality that a simple linter would just miss. Now, getting this system in place wasn't exactly a straight shot from A to B. The initial idea was pretty simple, just detect the bad code. But once it was out in the wild, being used in the real world, a very human problem cropped up, and it led to a pretty big pivot in the whole philosophy.
And this quote is just fantastic. He says his own tool started flagging his own handcrafted code as AI slop. Now, maybe it was technically right about some tiny mistake he made, but think about it. Getting a comment on your PR that basically calls you an AI slopper, that's just crushing. And he realized right away that no contributor, especially someone new to the project, wants to get humiliated like that by some bot. So that whole experience sparked this really crucial evolution. The tool changed. It went from being this punitive gotcha detector to more of a helpful coach. So instead of just a pass or fail or some embarrassing label, it now gives a quality score. It points out areas where things could be better, and it helps all contributors improve their work, whether they're using AI or not. It became constructive instead of critical. So after all that trial and error, all that refinement, this whole strategy really boils down to 3 simple, actionable rules that any project maintainer can use. Okay, here they are. Rule number 1, stop trying to figure out if the creator was a human or an AI. Just judge the quality. Rule number 2, use your project's policies, the rules you already have, as your benchmark for that quality. They're a fantastic objective yardstick. And rule number 3, always be improving your toolbox. As we just saw with that whole AI slop story, your first try is probably not going to be your best one. Keep refining.
And that really leaves us with one final question to chew on. This isn't just some high-level theory, right? It's a super practical approach you can actually use. So I want you to think about your own projects for a second. What are those little unwritten rules, or those tedious manual checks you always have to do? What if you could turn those into your very own automated quality coach?